You know that moment when someone asks, "Are you okay?" And you almost say something real, but the words feel heavy, like your mouth forgot how to open. So you just smile, or say, "I'm fine," because what else is there to say? I had that moment yesterday, at a gas station of all places. The cashier looked me in the eyes just briefly, and for some reason that broke something in me. Not completely, just cracked it a little. He handed me the receipt and said, "Take care." And I stood there, feeling like a stranger in my own life. It's not even sadness, you know? It's something quieter, something more tired. Like your emotions packed their bags and left one morning, and now you're just here. I sat in my car with the engine running. Didn't drive, didn't move. I stared at the steering wheel and I remember noticing the dust on it, how it shimmered a little in the sunlight. Tiny details, like my brain was looking for something to hold on to. But there was nothing. No anger, no tears. Just that strange, soft emptiness. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't scream, doesn't even speak. It just sits with you, in your bones, in the silence after your phone stops lighting up, in the space between your thoughts, where the numbness grows. And you want to explain it. You want to tell someone. But how do you describe something that doesn't even have a shape? I think the worst part is everyone thinks you're okay because you laugh at the right times. You reply to texts, you post stories, you wear clean clothes, you show up. But inside, you don't even feel real. You feel like an extra in someone else's movie, a blurry background character waiting for a cue that never comes. And no one sees it. They see the version of you that functions, that smiles, that says, "I'm just tired." But they don't see how tired really means. How it means I don't feel anything anymore. Sometimes I wish someone would just sit beside me and not ask anything. Not try to fix it, just exist with me in the quiet. Like if you really wanted to know how I'm doing, you wouldn't ask. You'd just watch the way I hold my coffee cup with both hands like I'm cold, even when it's warm outside. You'd notice how long I take to answer simple questions. You'd feel how forced my laughter sounds up close. You'd know I'm not okay, even when I say I am. But I don't blame anyone. It's hard to explain emptiness. It's not sadness. It's not depression. It's more like being awake in a dream you can't escape from. You're walking, talking, living, but none of it feels like yours. And the scariest thing is, you get used to it. You stop trying to feel better. You stop trying to be understood. You just adapt. Like it's normal. But it's not. It's not normal to go through life feeling like a placeholder in your own body. It's not normal to stare at the ceiling every night hoping tomorrow feels different, but knowing deep down it won't. Still, you show up. Still, you smile. Still, you say, "I'm good." Because even if you screamed, who would hear it? And even if they heard it, would they know what it means? Sometimes I think if I started crying, I wouldn't be able to stop. But I don't cry. Not because I'm strong, not because I'm healed, but because I've forgotten how. You know what's strange? Sometimes the people who feel the most empty are the ones who remember everything. I still remember the sound of the washing machine at 2 a.m., the low hum, the way the whole floor vibrated. That was the night I realized I wasn't afraid of being alone. I was afraid of being forgotten. I sat on the cold tile floor, phone face down, waiting for a text that would never come. Not because someone blocked me, not because we fought, but because I stopped mattering to them quietly, and they didn't even notice. That's the kind of pain you don't talk about. Not because you're hiding it, but because there's no place for it. You can't bring it up in conversations about weekend plans or reply to "How are you?" with "I feel like a ghost in my own life." So you hold it in, you shrink it down, you pretend it's manageable. Because even if someone asked, you'd have no idea where to begin. It shows up in weird places, like forgetting your own birthday until someone posts about it. Like looking in the mirror and not recognizing the way your eyes sit in your face. Like not knowing if you're hungry or just hollow. I remember brushing my teeth one morning and suddenly feeling like I was watching someone else do it. My hands moved, my body functioned, but my mind was somewhere else. Somewhere far, somewhere quiet. That kind of emptiness doesn't come all at once. It's not dramatic, it's not loud. It builds slowly. In the unanswered messages, in the canceled plans, in the times you were there for everyone but no one stayed for you, it becomes a routine. You wake up, you breathe, you perform. And then you wonder if anyone would notice if you stopped showing up. Not in a dangerous way, not in a cry for help, but in a soft, exhausted, I just want to disappear for a while kind of way. Not to be saved, just to rest. I used to think emptiness meant something was missing, that I had to find a passion or a purpose or someone to love me deeply enough to fill the space inside. But what if it's not about filling? What if it's about finally admitting you've been carrying too much for too long? That maybe the emptiness isn't a lack, it's a response. A quiet way your body says, I can't keep holding this anymore. And yet, you keep holding it. Because what's the alternative? Breaking down in public? Explaining your silence to people who only notice when you speak? It's easier to say, I'm tired. Easier to make a joke. Easier to disappear in plain sight. Sometimes you scroll through photos of yourself from when you were younger. Smiling, free, alive in a way you don't remember feeling. And you wonder when the light started fading. When you stopped believing that things could change. When hope became something you only offer to others, but never yourself. And it's not that you gave up. You didn't. You still get up. You still try. You still show love. Even when you don't feel it returned. That's the part no one sees. How hard you fight just to stay soft in a world that keeps making you hard. And in all that trying, you lose your words. You lose your language for pain. So instead, you speak through silence. Through the way you flinch at kindness. Through the way you laugh too loudly at things that aren't funny. You live like a whisper in rooms full of shouting, and somehow you keep hoping someone might hear it anyway. You know that moment when someone says, you've been so quiet lately, and you smile, shrug, say something like, just tired. That's it, and that's all you give them. Because saying more feels like too much. Because saying nothing feels safer. But inside, it's never quiet. Inside, it's loud in a different way. It's the kind of noise that doesn't need sound. A pressure behind your ribs. A heavy flutter in your chest. A buzzing in your thoughts that doesn't go away even when everything around you is still. I remember one afternoon sitting in a coffee shop alone. People all around me. Soft music playing, chatter, laughter. Everything normal. But I felt like I was made of glass. See-through, there. But not really. I watched a couple talk about something funny. I watched someone work on their laptop. I watched a girl take a picture of her drink. And I wondered if anyone had ever looked at me and thought, she looks like she's okay. Because I did look okay. I was dressed. I ordered food. I nodded politely when the barista handed me my drink. But inside, I felt like a hallway with no doors. Like I kept walking forward, but never found an exit. And it's not always sadness. That's the strange part. It's not that you're crying all the time. It's not that you can't function. It's just this blankness. Like everything you do has a thin sheet of glass over it. You touch joy, but don't feel it. You hear people say they love you, but the words don't sink in. You move through your days like you're half a second out of sync. And no one knows. No one sees. Because you're too good at hiding it now. You've made it a habit to hold your breath during emotional moments. You've trained your voice to stay steady, even when your thoughts are shaking. You learned somewhere, maybe young, maybe recently, that talking about your pain either makes people uncomfortable or makes them go quiet. So now you carry it like it's yours alone. Sometimes you type out a message, I don't feel okay today. Then delete it. Backspace. Gone. Because what if they don't reply right? What if they say, you'll be fine, and it feels like a punch to the chest? It's easier to say nothing. Easier to let the ache sit in your throat than to try and translate it into something soft enough for others to understand. There was a time I tried explaining it once. To someone I trusted, I said, I don't know what's wrong, but I feel so far from myself. And they looked confused. They asked, are you stressed? I nodded, because that was easier than saying, no, I'm just tired of feeling like a stranger in my own mind. That conversation never happened again. So you learn to journal it out, to cry silently in the shower, to find comfort in songs where the lyrics feel like your heartbeat. You get used to people calling you strong while you're holding pieces of yourself behind your back. You smile for the camera. You say, I'm good. You keep going. Even when every part of you is asking, is this really living? And still you hope. That maybe one day someone will sit next to you and say nothing. Just be there. No questions, no advice, just a presence. Like quiet sunlight. You don't want to be fixed. You want to be seen. And maybe that's not too much to ask. You know those nights when you lie in bed, not tired, but too drained to move? You stare at the ceiling and your eyes don't even blink much anymore. The air feels heavy on your chest. And nothing happened that day. Nothing big. But somehow it still felt exhausting, like you had to carry yourself through every moment. You scroll, watch videos, rewatch the same content, laugh at things, but it doesn't echo inside. No warmth. And no one knows how many nights like this you've lived through. Because you're not the type to say, I'm not doing okay. Even when someone asks, how's everything going? You say, fine, always fine. But sometimes even you don't believe it anymore. Sometimes you want to grab someone's hand and just place it on your chest so they can feel the hollowness, so they can hear how quiet your heart has gotten. But you don't. You just keep walking through your day as if you're wearing a body that doesn't quite fit, as if your soul got tired but forgot to tell your face. And the worst part is, people still need you. People still depend on you. So you keep showing up, you keep replying, you keep being there for others even when you're not there for yourself, because you've become the one who listens, the one who understands, the one who always seems grounded, calm, stable. But behind that is a version of you that whispers things late at night, like, does anyone even notice when I go quiet? Would anyone ask if I disappeared for a day? Am I just filling space? You don't ask those questions out loud. They feel dramatic, too heavy, too much. So you carry them in silence. And slowly that silence becomes your second language. You stop reaching out. Not because you don't want to, but because you don't even know what you'd say anymore. There's no single sentence that explains this emptiness. No punchline, no headline. Just a quiet ache and the fear of being misunderstood. You tell yourself, this is just a phase. But you've said that so many times that now even those words feel thin. You wake up, you go to work, you eat, you sleep. But in between all of that, you're searching for something. You're not even sure what anymore. Maybe peace, maybe connection, maybe just a place where your heart can rest. Because even when you're surrounded by people, you feel far away. Even when you're laughing, a part of you is watching from a distance. And you start to wonder if this is how it's always going to be. If feeling empty is just part of becoming an adult. If being numb is the price of being strong. But then, every once in a while, you hear a song or read a sentence or see someone cry and something in you stirs. Just a little. Like your heart remembered something. Like a tiny part of you whispered, I'm still here. And that whisper, it doesn't fix everything, but it softens something. It's not a solution, not yet. But it's not silence either. It's a beginning. You know what's strange? Sometimes you'll feel the emptiness most when everything is calm. Not during chaos, not during heartbreak, but in the quiet. When your room is still. When the sky outside is soft and nothing is wrong. But your chest feels like it's caving in anyway. That's when it hits the hardest. Because you can't point to anything and say, see, that's why I'm hurting. There's no villain, no single event, just a feeling that slips in quietly and stays. You try to distract yourself. Cleaning, working, replying to messages, putting on music, going for walks. And for a moment it helps, a little, but then it returns, like a shadow that knows your name. And you don't want to worry anyone. You don't want to say, hey, I think something's wrong with me, because you don't even know what that something is. It's not depression, not anxiety, not a panic attack. It's just a stillness that feels too heavy, a silence that feels too loud. So you keep pretending, smiling when you need to, nodding when people talk, being there for birthdays and meetings and calls. But inside, it feels like you're pressing pause on yourself just to keep existing around others. And no one sees it. They don't see how your hands shake when no one's looking. They don't see how your throat tightens when someone asks, are you happy? They don't see you sitting on the bathroom floor just breathing through it, trying to exist without breaking. And when people compliment you, say things like, you're so strong or you're always so calm, you want to say, no, I'm just tired. But instead, you nod, say thank you, and carry it. Because being strong became a habit, not a choice. Because you learned long ago that if you don't hold yourself together, no one else will. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe it started the first time someone dismissed your feelings, or the first time you opened up and it got turned into a joke, or the first time someone said, "You're too sensitive," so you shut it down, built a wall, learned how to smile without feeling, learned how to comfort others even when you were falling apart. And now, years later, you're still doing it, still carrying others, still hiding your own ache. But here's the quiet truth. There's nothing weak about being tired. There's nothing wrong with feeling this way. And you don't need a dramatic reason to feel what you feel. Sometimes your heart just needs rest, real rest. The kind that doesn't require you to perform or pretend. Sometimes it's not about fixing the emptiness. Sometimes it's just about making space for it, letting it exist without shame, letting yourself say, "I don't feel okay right now," even if no one is listening, even if only your heart hears it. Because your heart has been listening this whole time. It's been carrying you quietly, gently, waiting for you to notice it again, waiting for you to sit beside it instead of running from it. And maybe that's where healing starts. Not with answers, but with presence, with finally staying with yourself long enough to hear what you've been holding in. Even if it's messy, even if it hurts, you don't have to be okay to be real. You just have to be here. You know that moment when you sit in a room and nothing is really happening, but inside it feels like something is falling apart? You're not crying, you're not angry, you're just not there. Like you left yourself behind a long time ago, and your body is doing the talking now, smiling at the right words, moving through the right routines. But your soul feels like it's floating in some quiet space, waiting for you to notice it again. And maybe you've been here for years. Maybe you've gotten so good at being fine that people stopped asking. Or maybe you stopped answering honestly because there's no safe way to say, "I don't feel anything anymore," or "I don't know who I am without being useful," or "I can't remember the last time I felt deeply loved without having to earn it." So you keep going, doing what's expected, showing up where you should, but the silence inside you gets heavier. And at night, when the lights go off and the world gets quiet again, that's when it returns. The echo, the ache, the empty space where joy used to live. And still, you don't talk about it. Not because you don't want to, but because you don't know how. You've tried. Maybe once, maybe a few times. But the words felt too big, or too messy, or too disappointing to say out loud. So you held it in, again and again, until even you forgot what it was you were trying to say. But here's something soft to hold on to. What you feel right now, this quiet, empty ache, doesn't make you broken. It means you've been holding too much for too long without anyone helping you carry it. It means you've given parts of yourself away in moments where no one offered anything back. And still, you stayed kind. You stayed gentle. You stayed alive, even when your own voice was missing. That matters, even if no one saw it, even if you forgot to see it. You're still here. And you don't have to fill the silence today. You don't have to make it make sense, or explain it away, or force yourself to smile through it. You can just sit with it, quietly, softly. And in that stillness, maybe there's something sacred. Not a solution, but a space. A place where you're allowed to be honest even if no one else is listening. A place where you don't have to be useful to be worthy. Where you don't have to feel full to be loved. You're allowed to be empty here. You're allowed to be quiet here. You're allowed to just exist here. And maybe, just maybe, that's the beginning of being whole again.